Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. This is going to be it's clobbering time, and I thought tonight's topic would be a fun topic. We're going to talk about the original Doom Patrol versus the original X-Men. I think that's a fun topic to discuss, being that they're so similar. They came out so close to each other, and they both are freaks led by a leader in a wheelchair. I was just over on Phil Diaz's channel. There was technical difficulties, and it just dropped in the middle of a sentence. So he's trying to figure out what happened. But I had to leave anyway because I have this scheduled for 8 o'clock. So as normal, I will talk about my campaign for a little bit, and then we'll have it, and then we'll we'll talk about the topic at hand, which is it's clobbering time. So here you go. This is my campaign. This is on Fund My Comic, a wonderful site. For those of you who don't know, it's owned and operated by one of us, meaning a comic book creator. He got tired of all the political tomfoolery that was going around, so he decided to do something about it and make a site himself. He being Luke Stone. Issue number 1 of Heroic Tales features the Patriarch. And this is the Renzo Rodriguez cover. This is the Pat Broderick cover. And this is beautiful Renzo Rodriguez artwork. I'm so proud to be part of this. And then I just wanted to show off a few pages to show that, yes, Renzo is doing the interiors. So this is not a bait and switch. You're going to get a classic Bronze Age superhero comic book drawn by a master. Dale wants to know what happened. I don't know. Phil had me on, and then when his brother left, it shut down the stream. So and we were still talking. I was like, I think the stream ended. So, so we're gonna reschedule. Yeah, talking to Phil, and I've been seeing Phil in my chat as Zaid Comics for a long time, and I didn't realize that it was the same person. Kind of a dummy. At a party, but I hope you're having a blessed day. Oh, good. Go to a party. Have a party. Stay at a party. As usual for it's clobbering time. I put the link in here if you want to pop in, and we'll discuss. You be a champion of either the Doom Patrol or the X-Men, and we'll talk it out. He's starting a new team called Brandon Sabotage. Yeah, it happens. It happens. So this is Fund My Comic. For my comic, it's doing really well. I mean, I can't believe it. I'm a first-time creator. I got 192 backers, $5,501. Oh my God. You know what I mean? It's just unheard of. I think I'm flabbergasted is the word that I want to use. Flabbergasted by the awesome, confidence in me. And I hope to live up to your trust. I also did a Kickstarter. We funded. Oh my God, I'm so happy we funded, because that means, well, here is the Renzo Rodriguez cover, but that means he has a black and white. People ask for a black and white. The back cover is the front cover, but this is the gem over here. This Michael T. Gilbert cover. Oh my God, I'm such a Michael T. Gilbert fanboy. I'm so glad that I actually get to do this. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that I get to do that. Oh, I almost just canceled my stream. The Phil Diaz curse almost struck me. Torchbearer Studios, how you doing? Good to see you, Torchbearer Studios. Yeah, I'm so happy. So we got people here. We got 14 people watching. I'm easily distracted, and it's clobbering time. For those of you who are new, first off, yes, I broke my neck. I'm wearing a neck brace. I shaved my beard, so I look different. But what I do is Fridays at 8 o'clock, I do a show that's an open invite. So the link is in the description. You could click this in, and you could, we'll be live and we'll talk. And, it's supposed to be like an old comic book store. So what we're doing is we're picking our champions. We're picking our fighters. And we're going to say who's going to win, the original Doom Patrol or the original X-Men. The rules are it's all in good fun, and you have to have I want to see your face. I have a hard time dealing with avatars. I like to see faces, and we'll have 4 people. I feel like multiple Brady Bunch tic-tac-toes kind of causes we step on over each other and stuff like that. So whatever. So I got somebody over pop it in, but it looks like they're having problems, technical problems. So I will continue filibustering. Yeah. So Phil, I was just on it with Phil. He asked me to come on at 7, but I told him I already had this scheduled, so we did 7:30. And then his brother popped on, and when his brother left, his brother was driving. When his brother left, it shut down the stream. So there you go. Technical diff. So Phil and I will reschedule. Me, Phil, and Brandon will reschedule. Whatever, it's all fun. It's all fun. Congratulations. Thank you. You congratulated me on funding. Torchbearer. Are you the guy that has a Thug comic? Are you the guy that's making the comic Thug? And if so, I'm really liking what you're showing. Even if it's not you, I still like what Thug is showing. So here we go. We got 24 people watching. I will put I almost hit leave studio. I'm going to call that a Diaz. I almost Diaz'd my channel. And here you go. Here's the link. Oh, here's my sidekick. I gotta get introduction music for this guy. Hey Marcus, how you doing?
I don't need introduction music, thank you.
I know it's funny when I go on other people's channels, and they put in introduction music, and I'm like, I hate that song. But you got to be nice.
I don't really think about it.
Hey Logic, when are you going to come in? I'm lurking in the shadows, even dead. Marvel over DC. When are you going to come in? Logic, I love your comments. You very, very pithy. Oh, and we got another person in the house. You ready for this?
See. Do I have to change this angle so you can see the cat?
Oh, I was going to make a crude joke, and then I remembered I try to be friendly. We ready? We ready? We got the Oscar Carrera. How you doing? Can you hear us, Oscar? Oscar,
hey,
can you hear us?
Hey.
How are you?
Hey, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can see you. How are you doing?
I hear you, but you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Yes, Oscar, we hear you.
I hear you.
Fine.
Where are you broadcasting from?
I got a little delayed.
Oh, you got a little delay? Go into your settings and check your audio. I'm going to pull you down for a second, and I'll bring you back up in 2 minutes, okay? All right. Sometimes when it's the first time you're going, you got to go into that little gear. You got to check. I learned that the hard way. I learned everything the hard way. You got to go into the gear. You got to check your.
When I do this on this laptop, I have to turn off YouTube. I only do StreamYard.
Right. Otherwise, you can have an echo.
Otherwise, I get double. I'm like, what's that? Oh, I have to do that. When I first came in, it drove me
drawing
nuts.
A lot of military guys in space. So I'm drawing guns and boots. Very time consuming.
Very time consuming.
Marcus is another hardcore comics fan. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I would say I was a hardcore comics fan. I don't have
How you doing, Marcus? We get it worked out? Oh. Well,
I love that mask.
Yeah.
You should wear a Luke Storm mask.
So, Oscar's figured everything out. Oscar, can you hear us? I'll pull. All right. So, Torchbearer Stereo. Yeah. Okay. Yes, it's me. So, Torchbearer Studio, for those of you who don't know, is working on a comic called Thug, and it looks awesome, and it's about dinosaurs. So
cool.
This is everything. Dinosaurs fighting the military. If I may be so bold to guess, I can't wait. What comic book fan does not like dinosaurs? And if I may go on a tangent, I've been waiting for 2 or 3 years for a board game called Dinos vs. Army Men or something, and it's basically big green dinosaurs versus little green army men with rules. I can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing, Oscar? Did we figure it out? We'll just leave Oscar there. For those of you who don't know who Oscar is, Oscar colored my Unheroic Tales for my comic, and he's also.
I hear you.
You hear us, okay? And Oscar is also coloring the Mary Sue story in issue 2. Daniel De La Silva is going to color the Patriarch story, but Oscar is coloring Mary Sue. And Oscar and I are working on the worst kept secret project in the world because I keep talking about it. So right, Oscar, and I'm hoping to have a working script over to Oscar by the end of next week. I'm just being a jerk and working on so many things. Okay, Thug's main character is a whole type of character. Dinah's show up a bit later. Okay. Oh, so Thug is Thug. He's okay. Heroic Tales comic book #1. Yep, that's me.
I'll get the other one up in a second. I'm gonna do this. If I'm looking down, I can do the chat on my phone.
The delay is boom.
The delay is driving you crazy? Yeah, the delay drives me crazy because you probably have your mic on and your laptop on. You know what I mean? So it's causing the feedback loop. And yeah. So what do you want me to do? Do you want to stay in or do you want to drop out?
No, if I'm transmitting from the iPad.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So what do you want? Do you want to stay in or should I drop you out?
I think I chat better.
Okay, you're gonna
stay in the chat.
Okay.
It's great to see everybody his face though. It's great to see.
Right, I've never seen Oscar's face before. I thought he was a big giant.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Oscar knows his comics. I've been sending him.
This was his idea,
and he like, oh, that's like this, and he knows his comics. So I was kind of hoping.
I think this was his idea, if I remember right.
Oscar, this was your idea, yeah.
I think this was his idea, yeah.
I'm going to keep Oscar's like, what's that called? The green room.
I have my ideas already about this, and I think it might surprise you.
Okay, so we got a bunch of people. Okay, yeah, Oscar, you are always welcome to come back when you figure it out. It's the first time you do a chat. There's always technical difficulties that need to be worked out. So no problem, you fix it up. And yes, Oscar, this was your idea. This was your idea.
This is driving me crazy. That's
all right. Bad. So we got 29 people. I will throw the link in the chat one more time, and I'll try not to Phil Diaz the chat. Were you watching? I was on Phil Diaz.
Who else? Phil is very tall, by the way. I met Phil.
Yeah,
and I'm 6 foot, about 6 foot. He is literally he's 6'5". He's tall.
Yeah, and he was saying that Jim Shooter towered over him.
Jim Shooter even hunched over, like he's hunched over now because he's older and he uses a cane. He's really tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the old Marvel bullpens, like they would draw him and you wouldn't see his head, Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
he's at least 6'8".
I might as well announce this. I had a suggestion for Sunday
comic.
Yeah.
What's my favorite? One of my, if not the favorite comic. I don't like. Oh, did you reread it?
I just went and got it now and then went live, so I'm going to reread it.
It's influential on every level. A Shooter wrote it, It's sad. Well, it's a what if. All those
we'll talk about it on Sunday.
The original ones are ironic. Let's leave it at that.
So again, Oscar was the one who came up with this idea of the Doom Patrol versus the X-Men. So when he figures out his technical difficulties, welcome to come back. Absolutely. I understand Doom Patrol is the DC response of the Marvel X-Men. That is that's the controversy, right? Like Marcus.
Yeah. Is Doom Patrol more the answer to Fantastic Four?
You see, what's that? The Doom Patrol is
more of the answer of the Fantastic Four.
You know what?
Because the X-Men is not unlike the Fantastic Four.
You know what? That's so obvious that I'd never thought of it before.
So I think Doom Patrol, what I was looking at today was 1963. The X-Men was 1964, and the Fantastic Four is 1961.
Right. So this is the way it works. Is the Justice League came out first. Then DC took all of the greats. Right. Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, threw them all on a team, and that sold like gangbusters. And supposedly, what was it? Mark Goodman and Julia Schwartz were golfing. Is that the story?
Something like that, yeah.
And Julia Schwartz told Oscar to Mark Goodman, you got to put you got to make a team book. Team books are hot. And then, that was Stan Lee's uncle, said make a team book, and he made Fantastic Four. And Stan Lee was going to quit. He was tired of like
Right.
Boom, the living Munchkin, and Pooh Bah, the space alien. You know, he said, this isn't what I signed on for. I want to write the great American novel. So supposedly Joan Lee, Stan's wife, said, well, then make the comic you've always wanted to make. And then he was given a mandate to make a new team superhero comic. He made the Fantastic Four. And I don't think anybody is going to argue that the Fantastic Four was as different from the Justice League as it could be.
You know, something they always say, Martin Goodman was Stan Lee's uncle. He's his uncle by marriage.
Right.
They're not really blood related. Everybody says Stanley was some sort of Nepo baby, but it's not quite. That's not quite it. It's kind of like, hey, this kid was 16. Can you give him something to do, or sweep up after the artist or something? Which is what he started doing.
Right. Yeah. He would, yeah. Yeah, I knew when I badmouthed Pooh Bah the space alien, I was going to get the Pooh Bah the space alien fans to attack me. But you know, let's face it, in the internet, you have to stir up drama intentionally to get the clicks. So DC Miller fell into my clickbait trap. There you go. But so Stan made the Fantastic Four, and it was different. You know, they debuted. They debuted. I always say that wrong. They didn't have powers. They were kind of nasty. They bickered. And he also hedged his bet with great big monsters, because that was the Marvel trend at the time. And the rest is history. And if you read the first 10 issues of the Fantastic Four, they're not really the same characters that we know and love now. Ben Grimm was this close to being a villain. Reed was kind of sinister. Sue Storm really didn't have a personality for a couple of years. She was just the invisible hostage, right?
Most of the time, Stan wrote her, yeah.
Yeah, she was the invisible hostage, and Johnny Storm pretty much was the same. You know, the goofy.
Although when I reread him, and I had a Masterworks and I didn't reread it, Reed had an edge the whole time. Like if he wanted to tell somebody, Ben or Johnny or Sue, to shut up, he just said, "Listen, I'm busy."
Right.
Especially if he had like stubble and he was trying to fight Galactus. He had a short.
Yeah. If Ben was up all night making the intergalactic space toilet, you didn't mess with him, because he was going to cut you to the quick.
That's right.
So I'd like to think that I'm not locked into my ideas, because I'd never even considered that the Doom Patrol was a response to the Fantastic Four until you just mentioned it right now.
I read that somewhere, and it's the same amount of characters plus one. Elastigirl, while she kind of doesn't really stretch, she can kind of stretch with the
right.
And then there's the Human Torch and Larry, as I forget their names while I'm on
Negative Man. So
and then the brains are the chief and there's a Thing and Robot Man, which
Robot Man is the Pinocchio character. You know, yeah, absolutely.
And when they started adding
obvious now that I'm mad that I never thought of it before. You know,
well, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
you're welcome.
Yep. And Logic's finest. And fun fact, Stan Lee isn't his name. Yes, his real name is Stanley Lieber, and he never legally changed it. So I wonder, did his paycheck say Stanley Lieber?
It might have. That's a good question. Maybe Larry knows. You could ask him.
Yeah, I got to call Larry. I haven't spoke to him in over a month.
He's the last one, you know.
Yeah.
All the golden age, like Silver Age-ish, golden ages people, they're gone. They're all gone.
Yeah, I told him I'd like to meet him up and take him out for dinner, and then this happened. So you know,
he did so much.
He has no clue. He probably thinks I'm blowing him off.
He did so much cow western work that people don't even know about.
Yep. He's a legend in his own right. He wrote the first couple issues of Thor. You know,
he named Don Blake. He named Tony Stark.
Yep, and he gets he told me on the phone. This is me name dropped right now. That he gets so mad when people say Tony Stark. He goes,
"Oh yeah, you told me that." Well, that makes sense.
If Tony Stark makes you pizza, Anthony Stark designs, armor. And he gave me the script to his book called Chirps. Oh my God, I'm loving it. This should be a movie. It's so good.
His creation of the characters between the fight between Stanley and Jack Kirby, Larry Lieber, a couple like Thor, particularly Iron Man, he's kind of left out,
Yep.
And Don Heck is left out of Iron Man.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Just a little bit. I mean, they do deserve some credit.
So to get back to what you're saying, we had the chief, who is Reed Richards, and then the Elastigirl is really a mix she's the Invisible Woman with Reed Richards' powers.
Right.
In a way, and Robot Man is Ben Grimm. He's even orange. And the Negative Man really is the Human Torch. Yep, I got nerd cups unite. I got my Hellboy cup.
Wait, this cup has the mullet Superman on it.
Oh,
I got it as a gift though.
The mullet Superman. That should.
Mm-hmm. It's a great mug.
Superman should have a high and tight. So and then the X-Men came out. What like 6 months later or something like that? Not
something
even
like that, yeah.
Yeah, and the X-Men, famously a bunch of misfits, in led by a genius in a wheelchair.
Right.
But
there's nothing that I've read over the years and some of the interviews that actually say that the creators thought of the other. Well, we like Doom, except for the story about the Justice League. Well, we like Doom Patrol. We like to make something like that. I think it's more coincidental that it is ripping off at this point.
Well, so the original Doom Patrol was written by Anton Drake, or not? Now I'm messing myself up.
I had it here. I'll look it up.
Who was the original artist? But the original,
I think it was Bruno Premiani.
Bruno Premiani was, yeah. But Anton Drake for years claimed that it was a ripoff. And then
I don't blame him. I would think it's a ripoff too.
He said
There's a lot of things that I see as a ripoff.
I'm sorry.
There's a lot of things I see and I think they might be ripoffs. I mean,
well, let's face it, comic books.
Arnold Drake, Bob Haney, and Bruno Premiani. That's get the three people.
Right.
Bob Haney gets credit on Wikipedia anyway. I do look things up fast. I'm not always as smart as people think I am.
Don't pull the curtain. Don't pull the curtain.
Yeah, right.
Pay no attention to the Wikipedia behind
I have comics.org loaded on my phone. That's why I get it all fast. I don't have to type it in.
Let's be realistic. Captain Marvel was a rip-off response homage to Superman.
That's true. And so, but Superman had his own. They ripped him off of their own novel, and then Doc Savage and the Gladiator and a bunch of things. Batman in the Shadow.
How many echoes of Superman are there? Like you said, Gladiator, Captain Marvel, Hyperion. Marvel tried to make the Sentry until we realized the Sentry is kind of different, but.
But like Will Eisner came up with a Superman Wonder Man, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was a green character. I have the picture of it, and he jokes about it. And he had to stop. They put a cease and desist on him. He also turned down Siegel and Schuster.
Yeah. I heard that story.
Yeah, he's told that. I heard that in person. Yeah, he regrets it to the day he died. Well, in a funny, ironic way.
You see, your mystique is diminishing over here, Marcus. You never should have said you got comics.org loaded up and ready to go. Although, when I was teaching electrical theory, I would argue that all the tests should be open book, and the other teachers were like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "What? When you're there in the field wiring up stuff," I said, "You don't look at your phone, you don't look at schematics, you don't ask your partner, like, wait a minute, am I doing this right?" You know what I mean? I said, true wisdom is not memorizing everything. True wisdom is knowing when you don't know something and where to get that information.
What I'll do sometimes is I'll remember it and then I'll verify in case, like, let's say it's number 16.
Me, I'll just say it and then find out I'm wrong.
I think it's 17. Like, you're not sure between the 16, 17, 8 issue number. Like I knew What If 3 right away. But
well, that's your favorite.
So
anyway, let's get into the Doom Patrol and the X-Men. So we had the Doom Patrol. We had the Chief, a genius who's been crippled, confined to a wheelchair. He has no powers other than this heightened intellect. He's the inventor. And then later on, he became like kind of sinister, but he wasn't really he was kind of cold, but he wasn't sinister from the get-go. And then we had Elastigirl, Rita Farr. Rita Farr, the actress, she got exposed to this mephitic gas, and it gave her the ability to basically change her body. She could grow tall, and then later on, she could stretch. But at first, it was grow and shrink.
Shrink, right.
And
like
then, and then it was Cliff Steele, Robot Man. He, the race car driver, man's man. And it's the same as Ben Grimm. You know, Ben's man, horrific accident.
Right.
All that was left of his brain. They put his brain in a robot body. Now, that's also a ripoff because there was a Golden Age robot man.
Was it the same? Was that the same character? I was just going to ask you.
No, there was
I didn't look up enough.
I think the original Robot Man was a different company, one of those characters that was
that DC bought like Quality or something.
I didn't want to say
it. I remember reading the 100-page Super Spectacular.
But he has a different secret identity. And then last but not least is Larry Trainer, Negative Man. Test pilot goes up, gets exposed to the radiation, and turns it, he releases his astral form, which is made out of negative X-rays and the ticking clock. If the energy is out of his body for 61 seconds, he dies,
They
and that's always
that later though, right?
There's always like he always comes back at 59 and a half seconds.
They stretched that out a little later, I think.
And then we have the X-Men. Charles Xavier is a mutant, mental powers, creepiest character in all of comics, the most morally dubious character in all of comics. I'm not a big fan of Xavier, and then we have originally Slim Summers, later Scott Summers, Cyclops. He shoots the power blast, not heat vision. It's not hot. It's concussive force.
That's a great character.
Bobby Drake, Iceman. Originally he was like this fluffy snowman, and then later on it became Crystal Iceman. The Beast, Hank McCoy, super genius. I always thought that was funny that he was the super genius, but he was also the most animalistic. And then Jean Grey, who had originally struggled to lift the textbook with her telekinesis. Later on, she's blowing up planets. But that's comic book for you.
That's the Phoenix Force. So I'm concentrating on their original. The X-Men, Doom Patrol has been through so much of different characters, and the X-Men, they don't even list like the original X-Men. They're the original X-Men, and the X-Men list doesn't even have these characters anymore. Oh, we forgot about the Angel.
Oh yeah, and then Angel, the high-flying Angel, Ward Worthington III, with wings. Yeah, I know almost nothing from Doom Patrol. I want to find some old collections to read. I started the Doom Patrol with the 80s version that on issue 19 it went to Grant Morrison, and I'm not joking when I say that comic book changed my life, because that was a crazy my comic. Pizzeria was closing down. I was my friends were starting to graduate college, and I felt like a worthless piece of junk. My business was failing, and I'm like, I want to go back to school, but I was kind of embarrassed to go back to school old around, so I literally read the Doom Patrol. Grant Morrison in the back had like a reading list, and it was all like Jack Kerouac. I was like, what is this? So now I'm reading on the road, and I packed up and I moved to the Southwest. I moved to Albuquerque because I was like, it's a fresh start. And that, I was about to say something I shouldn't have said. Hail to the chat.
It's like the plot.
When Iceman went through another change, the less said that about that, the better.
We're not counting that.
Yeah.
And I'm not counting that spiky Iceman. They decide to power him. Like during X Factor, the Simonsons, God bless them, tried to power up all the original X-Men because they weren't powerful enough.
Right.
They don't get enough blame for that.
It's funny that you said that, because again, I turned everything into my role-playing game. If we did a campaign where we were trying to make low-powered super characters, and everybody would get one power. And we figured out that the guy who picked ice powers cleaned house, because with ice powers, you got Green Lantern abilities. You can make weapons. You can immobilize your targets. You're making force fields. It's so many powers to put together. Ice power, and you can make armor. If you're clever with ice powers, it's really, really powerful. So Oscar, who's welcome to come back at any time. I didn't mean to clear it. I don't remember. Beast Boy is not he's from the original Doom Patrol, but he didn't debut in the first couple of issues. I forget when, but it was literally like 20 issues or so later when they went to Africa. They found Beast Boy. Yes, so he became part of the Doom Patrol later. So I'm talking issue 1 of Doom Patrol versus issue 1 of X-Men. And it would be remiss to say there is no issue 1 of Doom Patrol. It was My Greatest Adventure 86.
86, yeah.
Yeah, it was My Greatest Adventure 86 is the first issue of the Doom Patrol. and I think it was 121 of, I forget what issue it was. It turned to Doom Patrol, just like Journey into Mystery 83 was the first Thor, and then later they dropped the Journey into Mystery and it just became Thor. So there really is no Silver Age Thor #1. My Greatest Adventure became the Doom Patrol, and it went to, I think, 121 was the last issue, and they literally killed off the characters. Boom! They were like, "It's not selling. We're done." And then it's comic books. Nothing ever dies.
It's pretty unflashy artwork. I mean, he's good. Bruno Perry is a good artwork. I mean, you appreciate it more now.
Yes.
It's like Don Heck. I appreciate him more. Although they say every time an artist like that gets on a book, it actually sells better because it's so easy to read. Like every time Don Heck got on a book, it sold better than, say, Neil Adams.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? That's one of those counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, especially back then. Well, he didn't get a bad rep until the 70s anyway.
Don Heck?
So, yeah.
I didn't know he had a bad rep. I just know that, to me, when I started getting into comics, and I always say 74, Don Heck and Jack Kirby were old-fashioned.
Don Heck's 60s work.
Well,
his 50s work is really good. It's not
I'm just going to grab a soda.
His non-superhero work is really good, but his Iron Man is very good. It's designed as Tony Stark, and his early Avengers when he's aping Kirby, but he used to suffer from a lot of. There's a lot of books where Kirby helped him out, or even John Buscema helped him out because he'd have a lot of artist block.
Oh.
And he always had confidence problems. Everybody really appreciated him, especially when he inked his own work. Very Toth-like, beautiful women.
There was two artists, and this is mean to say that to me, I was like, oh man, it was Don Heck and George Tuska.
See, I think Tuska is.
And then later on in the 80s, when Steve Ditko returned, I thought it was a joke.
Tuska's underrated too. See, I always liked Tuska because the action and the power. He got that, but they spread him out thin, and he always had Vin Colletta inking him. But it did get old-fashioned on Iron Man. That's when Bob Layton took over as inking it. It just looked like a brand new character.
Yeah, but now
Iron Man by that
nowadays,
time, yeah.
I love it. Just like I couldn't stand Jack Kirby was old-fashioned comic books to me. It wasn't until high school.
I always liked Kirby. I bought all those reprints, like World's Greatest Comics and those reprints of the Avengers, and they reprinted so much Kirby work that I always liked them. I never really thought about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't have a lot of people hang out with who bought comics. I bought comics. My brother read them, but like I didn't have a bunch of friends. Oh, the Kirby sucks. No, it does. I didn't go through a lot of that because it was kind of a singular hobby. I had friends who made fun of me because of it.
They made fun of you for lots of reasons, not just because.
Well, that's true.
How about Storm? Now she can control the weather on a planetary level. Storm is now in Logic Finest. I've been talking about this. Power creep happens. Mm-hmm. Characters get more and more powerful. The problem is, I think when they get too powerful, it like this sounds counterintuitive, but the more powerful a character gets, the less tension there is in that character, and therefore the less interest. Like if you ask the average normie who you like better, Batman or Superman, they all pick Batman. Although let's face it, Batman is the uber bat these days. But like, you know what I mean? Like people like people like the Punisher over I'll say Superman. I think Punisher's probably, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that. But you know what I mean? Like Punisher comics sold more than Superman in the past couple of years before they massacred my boy.
They relate better to the non-powered hero, but want to create a superpowered hero.
Right. So that's why I purposely limited the Patriarch. If you could see here, I have his these are his stats. If anybody could get this, you can actually see how powerful the Patriarch is, and run it through a B&V rule book. But I purposely made him weak. And I remember while I was talking about it, somebody else told me, I'm making the most powerful superhero. It could beat Superman. I was like, yeah, but that's dull. I mean, it works for One Punch Man because that's the whole premise. The whole promise is he's too powerful, therefore he's bored. I thought Kirby was old fashioned until I got to art college and started to understand more about the design. That
Well, this is what Kirby did. He did this in the 40s, and then when he did Romance, and then he did, and again at Marvel, is that he brought the action, he brought the forced perspective. Like you were reading a lot of Justice League, and you read a lot of Alex Toth, Al Williamson, all that, or even all the EC comics. They're actors and they're acting in panels, but they're not jumping out of the panels. They're not flying at each other. That's what Kirby brings that nobody else brought. It's the power, the action, that type of superhero storytelling. Nobody did it, and everybody aped it. By the 70s, his style was old-fashioned, but all those kids who studied him all had that, plus the realistic stuff, like how John Buscema drew muscles, or Neil Adams. He wouldn't have ever done any sport. He would have drawn it like Ben Casey if it wasn't for Jack Kirby. So that's what he really brought, and so it comes in and out of style.
Yeah. Before we continue,
which is not about the Doom Patrol.
It's a shame that Oscar didn't come back because I wanted to show this off, but I'm going to show this off anyway. But this is Oscar's comic. I think it's coming out.
That's really nice.
I'm gonna embiggen this. So Oscar's the colorist for this. This is Magma Comics Rome Eternal. That's Oscar's colors. I just gotta say, I can't wait. He showed me a couple of interior pages. I don't feel I have the right to show the interior pages, but oh my God, I can't wait for this. This is awesome.
That's very nice.
So Magma Comics, you better believe I'm gonna be on the lookout for this.
See, yeah, why do comics take so long? Look at the detail on those.
Look at that. Is that phenomenal? So
and in the backgrounds, and I did the indigenous things, and it just takes forever, and that's way better than I did it.
Rob, look at that. Look at that.
So exacting to draw like that, and then color it too.
Yeah. Well, Oscar didn't draw it. Oscar didn't draw it.
He's still colored.
He's doing the colors. Yeah. Torchbearer. Yeah. This guy's got his own comic. This looks awesome. So I have no problems telling people how
that's tough to color too.
Oscar, and you know what?
That's fantastic.
I'm gonna spoil something else. Me and Oscar are working on something, and I'm gonna spoil this, okay? Because I feel bad that I couldn't get Oscar to Oscar's having us.
I like that. That's nice.
But here is a character design for our secret project. This is the robot. Well, he's called Robot Gorilla. Oscar wrote Robot Ape, but this is Robot Gorilla. This is one of the characters in a comic that Oscar are working on. So how cool is that? It's supposed to evoke Silver Age comics. This is for our comic called Eddie is Doomed, where I say it's Love and Rockets meets Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is one of the characters that we are working on. This is I can't wait I can't wait. Tonic Mole is going to be drawing the Love and Rockets. Oscar is going to be drawing the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
That's cool.
I just hope my writing lives up to Oscar's character designs. So there we go. Are you not entertained? K. Ojo wants to know. I don't know, man. That comic looks so entertaining. It's Robot Gorilla. It's Robot Gorilla. So Robot Gorilla, because it's supposed to have a Silver Age.
Yeah, but Gorilla's
and in the Silver Age, they used to say gorillas.
Julius Schwartz put gorillas like at least twice a year on his books.
Yeah. And next week he'll send me. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. And because I am a child,
I have to work on it.
With no ability to.
Actually, I should look and see if he got back to me.
I will show off.
No,
okay, Oscar, I'm going to show off this too. There's Femfire.
Oh, nice.
How cool is that? I
like that. Yeah, I do.
This is Oscar drawing
really
and
cool.
coloring.
Nice.
I cannot wait. Gorillas always used to sell a book if they were on the cover. Yes. I will give one more spoiler for my comic coming up. Well, it's a cheat because one spoiler is two spoilers. Okay.
Well,
but this is Phenomenal Man.
oh, I
So we
saw
get
him.
the
Yeah.
Golden Age Phenomenal Man. This is actually 3 spoilers because you could see my horrible artwork that I sent to
I see that.
so this is
Good
the
idea
Golden
for
Age,
us.
the Golden Age Phenomenal Man, the Silver Age Phenomenal Man, and then the Modern Phenomenal Man, and then the Golden Age Thunder Woman, Silver Age Thunder Woman, and Modern Age Thunder Woman. Oh, Oscar's telling me he likes the mystery. Okay, I'll show the mystery. Where is the mystery? Here we go.
Oh, I like that too.
Oh, I didn't realize that I was still. There we go. The mystery. And
Wow,
he's a
that's
mystery,
cool.
so I can't tell you anything about him.
That's really cool. The mystery.
So there you go.
Oh.
So there you go. You got some spoilers because I am a child and I can't.
Well, I talked
anyway,
about my writer. I'll be
Oscar,
drawing Eskimos.
everybody, Oscar, when does Rome Eternal come out? When can we get it? Because I tried the StreamYard, but I think I keep it in chat. Okay, Oscar, if you ever want, we'll try one-on-one. We won't go live. We'll just make sure we get the bugs out, and then you're always welcome to come back. Baby's got back. Yeah, yep. I DM'd. Oh, you want me to show it? Okay, I didn't know I was allowed to show it. This is the spoiler episode. I just want to make sure. Okay, let me go here. Let me go to messages. This is another spoiler, but this is not my comic. Oh, and of course I hit the wrong button. As long as I don't turn it off like the Phil Diaz brothers did.
They're a lot younger than you. They have no excuse.
This is the Thug. So
Nice.
This is Torchbearer Studios' signature character. He's making a comic called Thug. And he already spoiled that there's going to be some dinosaurs in it. There's going to be some military in it. And there's going to be the Thug in it.
I like that. Nice.
There you go. There you go. I didn't know I was allowed to show this, so I would have showed it.
I have no spoilers, by the way, but I spoke to my writer yesterday, and my next thing for Mythic Americas will be Inuit, Eskimos. I'm not indigenous, but I draw indigenous characters. And it'll be mostly splash pages with a lot of snow and ice. And he's already been taken underneath and drowned and given powers by the goddess Sedna and all such a thing like that. So I have to reread the story.
So Oscar says that Rome Eternal will be in the comic shops November. He showed me Eternal pages, and oh my God, I was like, because the patriarch, because we were talking about the Roman Empire. He goes, oh, you like the Roman Empire? But damn. I was like, this comic is I can't wait. I can't wait. So DC Miller says the Thug is cool. Torchbearer Studios. Oh, anything. I almost said a joke that I shouldn't say on family friendly TV. Yes, please. Yeah, we'll try. We'll figure it out, Oscar. We'll set up a time. We'll keep it in house, not live. We'll talk through it because I'd love to talk to you. Oscar is, when you ask Oscar for work, you're getting top quality work, like immediately. I feel bad he does it so fast. He's a consummate professional. So anyway, let's get back to the show at hand. We got 42 people watching. Holy mackerel. I will put the invite back in. And as you can tell, I'm all caffeined up. I took a nap. I'm ready to go. I got no excuses. So let's get back. We're talking issue number 1 of the X-Men and issue number 1 of the Doom Patrol, which is my greatest adventure 86. And just as a plug, you could go to my playlist Sunday Comics and you could see an hour-long video of both of those comics. So, I do have my greatest adventure number 1. I'm reading the Doom Patrol up to, in chronological order. I want to get those 70s with the female chief and everything. I haven't read those yet. The woman as opposed to Negative Man. So those I can't wait to read. But I did read the original Doom Patrol, but I missed a few issues. X-Men, I have every issue of the X-Men from 1 to I think around 400, but I'm missing X-Men number 2. I think it's number 2.
That'll be difficult.
And I'm missing Fantastic Four number 2. So
those are going to be difficult.
Yeah, and at one point I had Fantastic Four number 2 in my hand. It was $300. And I just,
you can't always drop to 300. At that point,
I just didn't at that particular moment. And now I'm mad because I would have.
Prices are coming down, so watch for deals.
Yes. So anyway, so let's do it. I don't want to do the brawl just as of yet. So I figure we talk about the characters themselves. So Marcus, do you want to be the champion for the Doom Patrol, or do you want to be the champion for the X-Men?
Well, I think I know about the Doom Patrol. I probably know the X-Men a little better.
Okay, so tell us about the X-Men.
Well, I think the most powerful character of the original X-Men is Professor X. I think they uniquely don't know what they're doing with a lot of their powers, and because it's Marvel 1963, they have not been powered up like we think of, say, Angel. You could read about Angel, say superhuman strength. No, he was just a guy with wings who flew, and that was cool enough at that time. And then the second most powerful is probably Cyclops because he couldn't control his concussive beams. Iceman should be, but he was still making himself a snowman and acting like a goofy clown. He had no idea what he could do. But like early 60s Marvel, their powers are not that. Like, they have powers, but it's not like superpowers like we think of today. And Jean was just the Stan Lee. She's going to do two things and faint.
Right.
So at that point, it's really a Professor X. Like the fact that they took on, what was it, the first, like Magneto right away, who was almost as powerful as he is now, and kind of fought him to a standstill is kind of insane.
Right. But makes you wonder how much of because like Marcus said, the very first issue of the Fantastic of X-Men, they fought Magneto, and Magneto was already a major villain. He at the height of his power. So in retrospect, I wonder how much that we don't see. There must have been a mental battle between Xavier and
Magneto. There has to be.
There's no way they could have taken him out back then.
The classic X-Men battle, because there's no way, that they could have done it. And the Beast was strong, but we didn't know how strong the Beast was at that time.
Right. And there was no impression that he was.
I don't think he was as strong as the Thing.
No.
Definitely not as strong as the Hulk.
Definitely not even as strong as Spider-Man.
I didn't think he was as strong as Spider-Man. I thought at that time, the early issues, like most of that original run, the Beast is like stronger than Captain America. Captain America with super strength. The Captain America had that super strength in the 70s where he could bend. That's about what the Beast's strength was.
I thought like the Beast, in X-Men #1, I would put him on par with the Gorilla because of the they gave like a gorilla formation. So I'd say, I don't know, is a gorilla 1,000 pounds? That's what I would put him at.
Well, yeah,
and I thought the Beast's biggest, like he was more agile. Like he could.
He was like that for a long, long time. Even when they turned him blue, they didn't power him up.
Right. For
a long time.
I first discovered the Beast in the Avengers, around Avengers 150s. I have no recollection of like the Beast lifting cars or bending bars. I have more recollections of him like brachiating and kicking things, and then and partying with Wonder Man, but at the same time going into the lab and working on stuff.
I think he was significantly stronger than a normal human being, Olympic athlete. They used to use that, but not super strong compared to like Iron Man, Thor. Right. He wasn't super. He wasn't strong, man.
I always thought him and like Black Panther were almost like redundancies of each other.
Yeah, well, they weren't always on the team together, so that's one most of the time.
I always thought, I agreed with you. Like Xavier obviously was the most powerful, but even back then, did he have like mind control? It was more like he was had a radio installed in his head.
He had powers that could solve the problem when they wrote themselves into a corner. Right. There's always got to be one,
Right. But Cyclops was always like powerful.
And he was always a leader. He was a leader back then. And if they did anything, it was because Cyclops set them up and made them work as a team.
Yeah.
That was probably
those eye blasts were always powerful from day one. Because that was his curse. That if he wasn't a stick in the mud, if he wasn't a tight ass, for lack of a better term, he could lose control of these powers that could literally
that's
kill.
why exactly.
He was always the no fun, and I was a sucker for that. Like Black Bolt is a character that I really like. Cyclops, until they made him a deadbeat dad, I still can't get past that. But up until
I remember
that, up until X Factor #1, Cyclops was a character that I always liked because I like the guy who has the responsibility and can't.
I don't know
When I had my
why.
pizzeria, I was 19, 20, 21 years old. My friends were all picking up chicks, and I'm like, I gotta put the dough away. I gotta finish the till. I gotta close the restaurant. I gotta mop. I gotta sweep, and then I gotta do it again. So I was missing part. Like I kind of resonated with that stick in the mud character
until he became a deadbeat dad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got the explanation that Death of Phoenix really.
Oh my God! In 1985, I'm sorry, Marcus, but this comment just blew me away. In 1985, I bought X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Iron Hulk #1 in mint condition. They weren't worth $10 a piece over. Oh my! I tell the story when my comic book store first opened up, probably around 1985. They had Amazing Fantasy 15, Fantastic Four #1, and X-Men #1 right next to each other. $60 a piece.
Yeah, you could see them for under $100. You know what? The biggest comics, 1985, maybe we're trying to get giant size X-Men #1, X-Men 94, X-Men 95. Those are big numbers. Way back then.
Didn't Mento have trouble with Robot Man? Is Metal Bot? Yeah, I think Chief put shielding in Robot Man. Mento, for those of you who don't know, is Steve Dayton, who became the adoptive father of Beast Boy. I don't know why. I always got amused by Mento. He's the third or fourth richest man in the world who had a scientist build a helmet so he could become a superhero because he was kind of like obsessed with Rita Farr, Elastigirl.
I was looking at the older comics, and there's so much stuff in older comics that we can think is creepy. And back then, nobody really thought it was creepy.
Right.
It just kind of was.
Right. I think they recognized that, and they made Mento kind of creepy later, to the point I think he became a full-on supervillain at one point.
Yes, I think he did.
They blamed that mental helmet. But yeah, that is kind of creepy. I'm going to become a superhero just to get the attention.
Like Xavier, what was that, in issue 2 saying, or 1 even? Boy, that, he's thinking we don't know how old he is, but we think he's like 55 years old, and he's like, whoa, that chick is really, Jean Grey is 17 or something.
Yeah,
he's really
even says it. I have no right to lust after this 16-year-old girl. Not while I'm confined in a wheelchair. Not because I'm a 55-year-old man and her teacher, but because I'm in a wheelchair.
They had a lot of songs about underage girls by rock and roll people for a long, long time. Now they're not good.
What, Kiss in what, like 72,
the 73? Beatles?
Christine 16?
Yep.
The
Beatles.
I saw you coming out of school that day. That day, I knew I had to have you.
she what was that Beatles song? It's like that too.
There was a Beatles song about which one is that?
Yeah, I'd forget now. It's slipped. I'll look it up, but it's funny.
Let me address DC Miller. Beast was a defender. Yes. Iceman, Beast, and Angel were defenders, along with Gargoyle and Cloud. Cloud, who, if you remember, Cloud was originally a naked girl with clouds around her naughty bits, and Bobby Drake, Iceman, was in love with Cloud, and then when Cloud turned into Cloud form and reformed, it would become a man, and Bobby Drake broke up with Cloud because he couldn't deal with the fact that his girlfriend was sometimes a boyfriend.
Dude,
think about that.
Those are JMT. Those are J. You just talked to JMT, man.
Yeah.
He wrote all those wacky defenders.
The wacky defenders.
Half of the defenders.
I think I'm going to be. Yes. Cyclops. It was all about discipline and leadership versus meanness. But in today's generation, where everybody gets a participation trophy, the guy who actually whips you into shape is the bad guy. And yes, Oscar, you're absolutely right. The Champions was also Iceman, Angel.
That's how nothing the X-Men were. That they took the X-Men and they were in reprints and they guest started Marvel Team Up. They guest started Captain America, and they would just be thrown into these super teams because they didn't sell anything.
Right.
Nobody cared about Iceman, Angel, Cycle. Nobody cared until Giant Size X-Men won.
Right. Yep. Yeah. People forget that that X-Men was on the verge of cancellation. How long was it a reprint series?
For almost at least 5 years.
5 years?
Right after Neil Adams, they had like one after issue, and it became a reprint series until 93. What was it? More than that, like 65 to 93. This is where I go check. I have an idea, and then I go check the number.
Yeah, I think I'm missing a few of the reprint comics. So when I say I have a full run, I don't really care that I'm missing a few of the reprint comics.
The Beatles song was, I saw her standing there. She was just 17. You know what
That's
I mean?
right. That's right. Yeah.
That's what I was remembering.
Yeah. And we forget David Bowie had a 14-year-old girlfriend. Jimmy Page had I think the same 14-year-old girlfriend.
Elvis Presley, of course.
Elvis Presley married a 14-year-old.
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Jerry Lee Lewis married his 14-year-old cousin. I love the Neil Adams X-Men. Yes. It's funny because when I first got the X-Men, it was 112. It was the issue where the X-Men, Jean Grey and Beast and Xavier, think the X-Men are dead. Meanwhile, the X-Men are trapped in the Savage Land.
Oh, yeah, those great issues.
And oh my God, that was my first X-Men. I didn't know any of the characters' names. I had no idea what was going on. But I
had been collecting at that time.
That was it. That was my beginning of the X-Men, 112, and I got it monthly ever since. So I didn't know who Neil Adams was, to the point when I saw Neil Adams for the first time, I was like, who's this John Byrne clone? Go figure. How wrong did I get it?
I bought Giant Size off the newsstand. And then I had a dog ate it. But then I bought somebody's collection, like you get collections. I bought somebody's whole collection for like $365 with like newspaper money. And it was right before all the X-Men really soared in price. And I got the whole run. I had two issues of everything. I had them all. I read those X-Men, those Byrne X-Men so many times. The staples were rusted.
Yeah, yep. I had to buy extra copies because mine were falling apart.
Exactly.
The X-Men were canceled. Yeah, Chris Claremont wasn't hired to restart the book. It was Len Wein, if I remember correctly. It was Len Wein and Dave Cockrum. And I don't know why Len Wein left, and I don't know why Dave Cockrum left, but Chris Claremont and John Byrne, who were pulled over from the Marvel team up. Remember, they were like being tried out on Iron Fist and Marvel team up, and then they were
Dave Cockrum left because he couldn't handle it, the monthly schedule. They were bi-monthly. And they were still by month, and Byrne brought him up because he's so much faster than everybody else.
Yeah,
he just was always a fast artist.
I forgot about that because I remember one of the issues says now monthly. I think it was around 119 or 120 where it says now monthly. I forgot about that because Iron Fist was bi-monthly and X-Men was bi-monthly. So I think he was doing monthly with
the X-Men started reprints at issue 67. 65. I wasn't too far off.
Hey, Smokey the Con Cat. How you doing, Smokey? Love cats over here. I keep trying to get my cat to come on camera. My cat knows when I'm going live and runs upstairs. There must be a sound or something that we don't.
Oh, Smokey's a friend of mine.
All right, we've been talking for an hour. Let's get to the bones now. So, this is first up. So let's list their powers. Xavier, at this point, I mean, it's been retconned that he could do anything, but at this point, he was basically a human transmitter. He could transmit and receive thoughts. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And he had like this global range. Maybe I don't know if they retconned it that Cerebro boosted.
I think they eventually did.
Yeah, and then Angel could fly. He had wings. So to me that was always less than flying because like he needed space.
Oh yeah.
And then Jean Grey could lift a monkey wrench. You know what I mean? And the Iceman.
But she wasn't a telepath at that time. It was
no. She was just telekinetic. You're absolutely right.
They retroed the telepathic in her.
And that always drives me nuts when people say she should use her telepathy to shut the door. No, it's telekinesis to shut the door. But she wasn't that powerful. And like you said, she would get tired really quick. Iceman. He would cover himself with ice that would give him a modicum of protection. This wasn't the crystalline like armor that he had later on. And he basically made inferior Green Lantern slides and objects. And
they hadn't thought about him yet.
Right. So and then of course Cyclops he was the only one that came out of the gate like fully overpowered.
Exactly.
But his weakness was he literally had to manipulate his goggles.
Right.
So if
they didn't give him
handcuffed him, he was useless.
Yeah, he had to do this with his goggles to open them up.
Yeah.
He couldn't use. Eventually, they gave him. He could press his hands like Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah, he had dials in his
Not
hand.
too
So
long.
that's the X-Men power. So the Doom Patrol power, people probably are less familiar with. So we'll start with the Chief.
Yeah.
The Chief has no powers. He's a brilliant. He's Reed Richards who can't stretch in a wheelchair.
He's the smartest ginger in history.
Yeah, the smartest ginger in history. So that's his weakness. He's not that he's crippled, the fact that he's a ginger. So he's the smartest ginger in comics. He's eccentric millionaire, borderline like sinister, but not really. You know, he's more like cold. He does the same Reed Richards things. Knows all, drips out the information because it creates good tension to the reader. Like there's no reason not to tell the audience these things. You know, it's there's no reason not to tell the rest of the Doom Patrol these things, except that it makes good tension to the reader. But that Reed Richards did that too. You know what I mean? But whatever. But let's go to Rita Farr. What could Rita Farr do? She could expand her body, and she could shrink her body. So she was Giant Man and Ant-Man.
And she wore a skirt while she grew, so that was a big distraction.
So she would distract. Yeah. And so it's funny because she was called Elastigirl. Later on, they kind of gave her stretching abilities, but not at first. Not at first. She would just get big and she could get small, which always bothered me that they said she was a freak and she couldn't act anymore because she had the least freakish powers of the Doom Patrol.
Oh yeah, she looked great all the time.
Yep. I'll run down the powers of the Doom Patrol, then I'll adjust the chat. Then my favorite is Robot Man. Robot Man. He had an indestructible robot body. And what they did was they
destroyed.
He had like a camera on him so that the Chief was always in communication through radio contact, and the Chief could watch everything. So
wow,
Arnold became Xavier, like telepathy, because at the time that's all the Xavier did was radio telepathy. So he was super strong, super durable, and then once in a while they could attach a gadget to him. That became something bigger later, but at the time he was just a juggernaut, you know.
But they created the GoPro.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Way earlier.
Yeah. Where's my GoPro? Oh well. And then the last member was Larry Trainer, the Negative Man. He got burnt up by radiation. He wore these lead bandages that contained this astral form of X-ray radiation. And what did that thing do? Whatever it needed to do. It left his body, traveled at the speed of light. And from issue number 1, they hinted that it had its own personality.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, right from the beginning, they kind of hinted, and I got to say that kind of stuff gives me the creeps, you know. So well done. Like so when Grant Morrison kind of gave him a full-on person, that wasn't too far off. And Larry Trainer called himself Larry Trainer. He called that X-ray entity the Negative Man. So it was made up of negative energy. So what could it do? It could pass through walls. It could sometimes interact with things. So like it could fly through you and knock you down. And I would love to see like it goes through Goon, and then like 6 months later you see Goon like, yeah, I have like really bad cancer now. You know, like but you know, that would be something that of course I would address. And then if it was out of his body for 60 seconds, he died. So it was always like, you know, he could pick up the bomb and defuse the bomb and whatever, and then come back.
And that was really ahead of his time.
So later on, Beast Boy joined, but you know, we're not gonna include like Polaris and Beast Boy because these were later on additions. So I will adjust the chats now. We got Eric the Guapo. It's good to see you back. Good to see you back, Eric. We got Logic's Finest. Yes, apologies. Chris Claremont was hired when the book was being canceled. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, it was going to get canceled again with Led Wein, and then I guess they did a Hail Mary pass, and that must have been the greatest Hail Mary pass in the history of comics.
Well, they both wrote 94.
Angel was useless before he could. Yeah, you hate to say it because he had a cool costume, but yeah,
he did have a great costume.
Yeah, I love that costume. At the time, the only powerful ones were Jean and Cyclops. Yeah, Iceman quickly grew into his own, and I always thought that Beast, you know, Again, I can't help but turn everything into role-playing game. If you statted out the Beast, he was a beast. He could have taken out the rest of the X-Men, provided Cyclops didn't jump.
Neil Adams really made Angel a star, giving him 2 different costumes. And obviously liked drawing a flying character because he did do a lot in those issues, like try to do transatlantic flight and all.
Eric is going to argue that Lex Luthor is the smartest ginger in comics.
Okay. I don't think there's too much argument.
Can't argue with that. Yeah, can't argue with that. So
I forgot about his hair.
Yeah, me too. I forgot about his hair. So there we got the 2 teams. Now let's talk about the highs and lows. Who has we'll talk about like some I know it's gonna be easy to talk about the X-Men. So I scared Marcus away. Let's talk about some highs of the Doom Patrol. Are there any fans of the Doom Patrol in the chat that can tell us? We're talking about the original Doom Patrol. Like some of the villains. Yeah, General Immortus, who is this ancient general, like who himself didn't have any powers other than immortality, and he apparently he had infinite wealth, and he controlled legions, and he was one of these, like they said in Unbreakable, he was like a master villain rather than a physical villain. There was Madame Rouge, not Madame Rogue, Madame Rouge, who had stretching abilities. And she was a communist, she was a communist revolutionary. And Major Mala and the Brain. Major Mala was this mobile pedestal with this skull face with the brain in it. So this was a super genius that, Major Mala was like a French revolutionary communist guerrilla that was his enforcer, and they formed the Brotherhood of Evil.
Right.
I think the Brotherhood of Evil came out before the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
I think so.
Yeah, and
I think that generally the Doom Patrol's villains were stranger.
Right. There was Mr. 104 who could you could control all the elements of the periodic table, which is vastly powerful. There was the Animal Mineral Vegetable Man, the AV Man. AVM.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah, he had
really one leg that was a tree, one leg that was like an elephant trunk. Mr. Nobody was later on, and I loved Mr. Nobody. Mr. Nobody was created
Shrapnel
by
I think they had generally, and in typical Marvel and DC, like they didn't have the soap opera that the X-Men did.
No, I was going to say that the original Doom Patrol followed the same kind of formulas that the Justice League did. Like sometimes there would be 2 stories in an issue, especially in the early issues.
2 10, 12-page stories.
And it would be like puzzle solving. General Immortus would put a bomb in 3 different locations, and then the team would split up. Negative Man would take one bomb, Elastigirl would take the other bomb, Robot Man would take the other bomb, and then the chief would deduce where General Immortus was hiding. You know what I mean? It was very similar to Justice League at the time, Julius Schwartz. And very rarely did they interact with the rest of the
I don't remember them. I mean, you read more Doom Patrol than I do, but I don't remember them really have a lot of interaction with the rest of the DC.
They were like their own little, like to me, the X-Men were their own pocket of Marvel for the longest time.
X-Men really Spider-Man in like an issue, in the teens, 16 or 17.
Yeah, but it was really
didn't do a lot, but they were known, though.
Once like in Marvel Team Up, that issue with the X-Men, that was like a big deal because
but they didn't interact with they fought the Avengers one issue with the Thinker and the Big and his awesome android. I mean, he didn't interact as much as some of the characters, but they were in the Marvel universe.
Right. They were
the outcasts. And then like how outcasts were they? They didn't look too they hated mutants, but they didn't really look that much different.
But that brings up a good point. Like the original Doom Patrol, if you looked at the indicia, I think it actually said like Capital Comics, and then like the Superman and Justice League said National periodicals. So I think there was like 2 houses of DC. I need to look. I didn't think to look that up.
It wouldn't be the first time.
But Doom Patrol really didn't interact with the rest of the of the DC universe. But that was like, except for the Justice League, I don't even think the DC characters really interacted. I think Justice League.
No, more early on. If you were I'm trying to remember if you remember, I think it was an Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1, where Spider-Man, or what, I'm not sure if that is his issue, but there's like all these little panels of, and the Fantastic Four doing this, and the X-Men, and Thor's flying by, like Steve Ditko drew Thor at like the only time or something. And you would say, you can buy this in Journey into Mystery Monthly, the Stan Lee stuff, and he crossed them all over right away. And like Ditko didn't want the crossover Doctor Strange or Spider-Man ever, but Stan Lee insisted. And by issue 25, the Hulk and the and the Avengers and the Fantastic were all fighting, and the FF. I mean, they did that pretty early on.
Logic Finest brings up the Hellfire Club, which it irks me to no end that the modern X-Men are going to Hellfire Club galas. Like, to me, that's like saying we're going to Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to go to Epstein Island galas. You know what I mean? Because the Hellfire Club were the Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein of the comic book world. The fact that these modern Marvel people don't understand that just shows that they fundamentally don't get comic.
I don't think they're going to be doing that anymore.
They better not be, because
I think Gail Simone's writing it and Tom Brevoort. So,
but you know what I mean? Like, it's to me, like, it shows that they need to fix. That they got to say that the X-Men didn't have agency. Otherwise,
I think these. Well, they still show. These are the new X-Men, and they still don't look like the X-Men to me. Well, I could see Cyclops. I don't know who the heck anybody else is. And that's
the movie version. He was vastly different. Yeah, I don't. So far, there hasn't been a good X-Men movie. So far, the closest one was Days of Future Past, but there hasn't been a good Batman movie, and there hasn't been a good X-Men movie, and it looks like there probably will never be a good Fantastic Four movie. But anyway, let's talk about the So the original X-Men villains. We have Magneto, who I think we all agree is
Magneto.
The Blob, who makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Lucifer.
Blob's really powerful.
Blob is pretty powerful.
Lucifer.
The Locust, right? Remember the Locust? Issue 2025. The Vanisher.
Vanisher. But he became a big character later on.
The Vanisher, he originally looked like a baby, he looked like a baby in a bonnet. Unis the Untouchable.
Unis, they couldn't beat Unis either.
And Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and the Toad.
Well, they were part of the Toad. Right. They were part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, head by Magneto.
So I think
Prince Namor was in one of those issues. He was the first mutant. They decided.
Chat, we got 65 people watching. What do we think? Who had better villains? I listed the Doom Patrol villains. I listed the X. I think we already know, but I don't want to make a proclamation here. So what do you guys think? Who had the better villains of the original Doom Patrol, original X-Men? I'm pushing for the animal, mineral, vegetable man, but I'm just one man. I'm one man here. But the Vanisher, Vanisher had
the Mastermind.
Mastermind.
He became an important character way later.
Oh my God,
but not early on, no. But most of those villains are all tied to Magneto and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, whether they fought them individually and then they fought them as a group. And I think isn't Lucifer the one who killed Xavier, or he faked his death?
He broke Xavier's. Yeah, Lucifer was like a turnip alien from another planet.
Right, he broke his
legs.
Dropped
a boulder on Xavier and broke his legs.
They didn't have a good handle on the X-Men.
I don't think they knew what to do with the X-Men.
Well, also they hired, the X-Men had a lot to do with romance. Like, I'm posting romance covers, and a romance artist ended up drawing it, Werner Roth, after aping Kirby for a few issues and Don Heck. And those were much more personality-driven artists than superpower artists.
The Brotherhood of Mutants, great group. Now,
okay.
I think I'm only missing issue number 2, but I read them all. But the original X-Men, the first 12 issues, it was like evil mutants. We got to save the world from evil mutants. And then everybody kind of forgets. They veered away from that. they even address it in the letters page that Stanley felt hampered by this mutant battle, and he kind of pivoted and just made them a superhero team, and they got Fred Duncan liaison with the FBI, and they just did superhero adventures, and for the longest time. And I think they pivoted back to the mutant angle later on, but there was a good chunk of time where Stan was like, I'm done with this.
Well, they went, Polaris and Barry Smith did that, and they went to the Savage Land a couple. Well, Kazar and the Savage Land early. They went to the Savage Land early on.
It was like issue 12, I think.
Yeah, they went to the Savage Land with Kazar early on, much earlier than we think. That we remember.
So many. Oh, Juggernaut debuted in what, issue 6?
Issue 6. Yeah, Alex Toth drew that issue.
And the classic Marvel guys followed both the X-Men, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, the Hellfire Club, the Brood. The Brood was so
some cool. Of it's the later characters.
Yeah, the Morlocks were good. The Sentinels were early X-Men villains too.
They were.
I forget what issue the Sentinels did.
It was early.
I think I was being tongue in cheek, but I think we all could agree that the X-Men has better villains.
Fighting the Sentinels right away.
Oscar and I are over here. We like the Doom Patrol villains. Oscar seems like more of a DC guy than a Marvel guy, and I grew up a hardcore Marvel guy. But as I get older, I kind of like the innocence and charm of the earlier DC stuff. But I'm not gonna. You dance with the one that brought you. And the X-Men were one of the first comics that got me hardcore into comics. The High Evolutionary, another film version that's an insult. It was vastly different, but I was impressed that they made him so detestable. Like, I really thought they were going to give him like oh, he's just misunderstood, like they just made, like, my wife wanted to see him suffer. They really made him a bad guy, which it's kind of refreshing to see a bad guy who's just a bad guy. I've always been a DC guy. Oh, okay. DC and Image are my favorite. Yeah, I understand there's a lot of guys who
hey, they fought Frankenstein, not early on though.
Yes, they did. Issue 36.
The Banshee wasn't a villain too, even though he became.
Where's that? 34, I think he debuted. 34. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's go to the next.
And the Mimic, like a lot of them are all mimicking their own.
Yeah, the Mimic. He had the powers of any other
Locust, and then of course Count Nefaria was an X-Men villain.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot of more important villains than you think, Right. And looking at the list of comics here, they did start splitting them off. Like Cyclops is in this issue, before a lot of nice covers.
They did a lot later on, like in the like the mid, like around 30s, 40s. So there was a backup story featuring individual stories that were like.
They were
like Don Heck drawn.
Yep, that's right. You're absolutely right. Cyclops and Marvel Color in this issue, and they do like that FBI thing that they did. Yep. But they had that great crossover with the Avengers because of Scarlet Witch. Yep. That was kind of neat.
Didn't the Mimic join at some point? Yes. He wasn't even. Was he a proper mutant? What was his name? Calvin something. And then the Changeling, they killed off Xavier, and then they decided, oops, and then they retconned him. X-Men was a teenage romance with powers. Yes, it was. Yep.
Yeah, Don Heck, Werner Roth. Yeah.
I had
work. Yeah.
Oh, I really liked what was Beast's girlfriend? The beatnik girl.
I remember Vera.
Vera, yeah.
Yeah, that was the other thing that the X-Men did that nobody else did. They went down to Greenwich Village and watched the beat poets, man. They'd be like,
yeah, they went down to the city and they hung out with the hipsters.
Yeah, they went down to the city from Westchester. They'd be like they'd be in like suits and stuff, and they'd be talking, and some guy be up there looking like
Lenny Bruce,
like Bob Denver,
Got to go in 6 hours. Good. Thanks for sending the art. So, okay, I think we all agree the X-Men. Now we got to go with stories. Okay, so the next category is who has the better stories. Who We'll start with the Doom Patrol. Bueller. Anybody got a good Doom Patrol story? The Doom Patrol stories were admittedly charmingly formulaic.
I think
they were written for children, right?
Yeah, well, that's a DC way. but they were not as for children as say the Supermans.
They were a little bit more offbeat and wacky.
Right,
I
offbeat.
think it's because they had less eyeballs on them than say the Justice League or Superman and Batman. But yes, the Doom Patrol were simple, formulaic. Every issue was the same. The team splits up. They solve the problem. They never punched the bad guy
at that point. So
I'm sorry.
Batman was the detective. He was really detecting. DC Comics weren't at the 60s just generally didn't have the smash bang.
Right.
The Comics Code kept them from doing a lot of fights, and Stan Lee didn't, and the artists at Marvel didn't care about that. So Marvel characters always fought. They fought each other. They fought the villains. They punched. They hit. They threw eye beams, and
Yeah.
But the DC Comics never did that almost till the 70s.
I'm collecting and reading the Justice League. Every time I put in an order for comics, I get one more.
I'm like Sikowski.
And now, now the prices are coming down. So I'm up to Justice League 13. So nobody punched anybody yet.
No.
Superman would pick you up. He would carry you. Green Lantern would encapsulate you or whatever, and the same thing with the Doom Patrol. So I mean, I'm being facetious, but I think we could all say the only great original Doom Patrol story is when they died, the last appearance.
Probably.
I legit
That's the most memorable story. Because I agree. All the people in the chat would remember the Doom Patrol if they had great stories. We'd all be talking about them. Just like
yeah, I was being facetious.
Neil Adams' X-Men story that's 60 years old.
So, because I don't want this to just go right to the fisticuffs, but the great Doom Patrol story, the only unfortunate great Doom Patrol story is their death. So they were the Brotherhood of Evil pretty much put a bomb in a small town in Maine. There was something like 13, 14 people in this tiny little town, and they couldn't get rid of the bomb. So they literally sacrificed themselves to save 13 strangers. Classic hero stuff. Actual tear-jerking stuff. They died, and I almost said Otto Preminger, Bruno Premiati, and Bob Haney and Anton Drake. They were literally like, "This is it. We're done." The comic didn't sell well. There's no future for these characters. They had no problems as far as they were concerned. This was the end, and then they stayed dead until maybe 10 years later when
they brought him back in the 70s before the implosion or after the DC implosion.
I don't know the exact
date. Joe did something. There was an African American character that was
right. So what happened was there was a female,
right,
Celsius, and she claimed to be the estranged wife of Niles Calder, the chief. And then she recruited Tempest, and Tempest was the blandest character ever. So he had power blasts. So he was Cyclops, but from his hands. Terrible name to go with those powers. Tempest is a cool name. She was called Celsius, so she had one hand that would do ice, one hand that would do fire. That works.
Okay, that's fine.
And Arani called her, and then she found the only survivor of the explosion, Robot Man, Cliff Steele, and put him in a body. And she was convinced that Niles Calder was alive. And then they found a Negative Woman, so another person with the same.
Everybody thinks it started now, but they used to swap the characters all the time back then.
It always bothered me that Grant Morrison, when he created Rebus, he had, Elizabeth Poole was the female and Larry Tramer he merged them as a male. Why didn't you get the Negative Woman and do the same thing? The character already existed, but
did he write that Doom Patrol from #1 with Steve Lytle and then Eric Larson before?
No, I can't remember. Paul Kupperberg, I think.
Paul Kupperberg. But Don Byrne had a run, and Logic's
that was later on.
Had a run, and nobody liked it except by my son. My son loved the John Byrne's Doom Patrol.
With Nudge, right? Nudge.
Yep, and I bought them until it got canceled because he loved those.
And a four-armed ape. So anyway, so that now when I say, now guys, I know what you're going to say. The X-Men had better stories, but you're going to talk about the Hellfire Club. You're going to be talking about the death of Jean Grey. I'm talking about the original X-Men. So can we talk the original X-Men stories? I'm talking before Giant Size X-Men. You know what I mean? I'm cutting you off at the past here because if we're going to say right away, instantly the X-Men have better stories, but these are the Chris Claremont. We're talking the original X-Men.
I think that everything with Jack Kirby drawing is worth reading. So, that usually has that little panache that Kirby brings to all his characters and all the action. Chick stone inking. That's generally it. Stan couldn't do it, hand it off to Roy Thomas, and he started bringing more of the soap opera stuff. And they had their, the Polaris when they introduced her was a big deal. The Neil Adams stories were a big deal because big things happen. The introductions of the Sentinels, Savage Land. I wasn't alive when the original X-Men came
Yeah,
out.
me neither. I was born in '68. I was born in '68. I think Neil Adams was already drawing the X-Men by the time I was born. That's what comic book stores are for, buying comics before you were born. So I think the X-Men discovered the Savage Land in issue 12.
That's right.
Kane Marco became the Juggernaut, I think issue number 6. We all know the you went Sauron, but that was
in the Savage Land.
That was back in the Savage Land. So I'm gonna say the original X-Men and the original Doom Patrol, none of their stories were really memorial, hence the reason why they both got canceled.
Yeah,
But I will give it up for the X-Men because, again, in the original X-Men, it gave us Kazar in the Savage Land.
I'm looking at this in Meccano, Factor 3. I mean, they had some. They saw Spider-Man. Oh, Tyrannus, the Hulk. The Hulk, it went up to be a Hulk villain, debuted in the X-Men as well.
Oh, really? He started in the
X-Men?
X-Men?
Here it is, X-Men number 34. And they fought.
That's the first appearance of Tyrannus?
I'm going to check. Like I said, I'm not the. I remember it all.
I always thought he debuted in the Hulk, but
I don't think he did. He may have. I might be wrong.
So, guys, I think we could fairly say that the original X-Men, the original Doom Patrol, really they didn't have that great stories, but I think the X-Men get the edge because of what came afterwards. Even now, even if you include the entirety of the Doom Patrol, what are the great stories? I think
you're right. Tyrannus the Hulk and Hulk number 5.
Right, I thought so.
I just forgot he was in the X-Men at all.
High Lord Zard has an interesting question. That reminds me, how do you feel about Japan making Marvel characters in manga? I can't really complain because it's a business and it's all about making money. And if it introduces the character to a whole nother market, God bless you. I never read, there's a Spider-Man manga I think is still going on. Never read them. But you know what? If Japan wants to make a Patriarch manga, be my guest. My nieces say that. Oh, you don't like manga? No, far from the truth. I think manga is excellent. I just don't know enough about it.
I also think that the X-Men, as opposed to, they did have they had different artists. They didn't have Bruno Premiani did all the artwork from 86 to the death of the Doom Patrol, and the X-Men had Kirby and Heck and Werner Roth and Heck and Werner Roth as they run out of time. There's definitely a deadline issue there. That Ross Andrew, they had different artists every 4 or 5 issues.
Logic, I always get excited when he comments because he makes such good comics. And Logic, come on, let's talk about John Byrne. Even the first X-Men reboot wasn't that great. Cassidy Omega, right? The X-Men didn't really become legendary until Chris Claremont, even though Wolverine. I will say that the first great X-Men story is the Dark Phoenix. The Dark Phoenix story is what launched the X-Men into the stratosphere. That is the story. I think that became something that it just built word of mouth. Because remember, they were still borderline. So, they were every other bi-monthly.
Here's your ironic X-Men 49 or 48. Arnold Drake wrote the X-Men.
Oh, there you go.
Say 49, 48, 49, 50 with Steranko's issues. And it's the X-Men, not the Uncanny X-Men. until 141, and then the Indicia is officially the Uncanny X-Men. That's another thing too. It's the
Yes.
X-Men.
Okay,
So
Oscar
Drake wrote it. He wrote it until Roy Thomas came back in 1955. So he wrote like 8 issues or 9 issues, which is kind of ironic based on what we're talking about.
Right. Oscar corrects me,
you.
and he's right. The Neil Adams Sentinels issues in the original X-Men is an excellent story. You're absolutely right, Oscar. Absolutely right. So yeah, those were some really good the Master Mold stories.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I think that's a legendary story. The Neil Adams X-Men was a legendary.
Right. That sets like there's a couple of X-Men stories that really set the tone for the X-Men. This being the first of them, the second being I think the death of Jean Grey, and then Days of Future Past, to the point I'm so freaking tired of that story because it just seems, it was a 2-issue story. It was phenomenal, and geez,
that starts your multiverse issues.
Everybody goes back to that story. It's like, come on. It's like you can't talk about the Legion of Superheroes without talking about the
Great Darkness
Saga. It's like,
which I never read because I wasn't a DC guy. I have to read that. I read DC right before Crisis and after Crisis, but not too much in between. When I was a kid,
excellent comic. I mean, the spoiler.
I have to read that. I will read that. I knew about it, but I didn't read it.
Growing up DC and reading Jack Kirby's Fourth World, and then seeing it peter out, Jack Kirby go back to Marvel, and then Darkseid being forgotten about, and then to see Darkseid show up in the Legion of Superheroes cold, you didn't know. Oh my God, that must have been the greatest.
They say that really solidified Darkseid as the big villain in DC.
Yes, absolutely. The Sentinels, Master Mold. Yep. Well, Nimrod wasn't the original X-Men. Yeah. But yeah, the Super Sentinel. Phantom Outsider. I think this is the first time I've seen you. Thank you. Welcome. And the original X-Men had a few good stories. That Back to 3 Archies. That was a good one too. I forgot about that one. The Nimrod Saga. I remember reading the Nimrod Saga.
They
just thinking, there's nothing more powerful than Nimrod. How the F are they going to defeat him? And then when Rogue took Colossus Nightcrawler's power and teleported portions of Nimrod away, that was genius. That was genius. Good memory there. Good memory. Okay, so I think we could safely say that the X-Men had greater stories, greater villains, greater highs, greater lows. The lowest of the Doom Patrol is basically the Doom Patrol.
The Doom Patrol is more consistent then. I could see that. I have to read. I have no time. I'm not going to have any time for anything soon. But
and then so let's get down to we've been talking for an hour and a half. Let's talk to the actual battle. So the parameters I always kind of set up because you could always say what if. It's always, the Beyonder, but then you throw it into an arena, no prep time, and you have the typical equipment powers. So we're not going to say Cliff Steel Robot Man has the negative drill that he used to drill through a mountain. You know what I mean? They have the typical powers. So, boom, the original Doom Patrol, the original X-Men are just thrown in. And they're gonna battle. What do we got? What do we think? What do we think? After the X-Men was to pay off the fact 3-story Captain America story. Oh wow!
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And this guy Marcus is throwing in my link to my Kickstarter.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, thank you. I get caught up and I forget about it.
Well,
so what do we think? Even Xavier and the Chief are there. So we got like wheelchair to wheelchair. It's like the Special Olympics. So what do we think? I'm just babbling a bit to give the chat.
The original I think the original Doom Patrol is way more powerful than the original X-Men. I think just by one-on-one, Rita, that's super strength. She still has super strength when she's big, because how could you not? And right. Robot Man, it might be as strong as the Thing, way stronger than the Beast. And, and then Negative Man is Negative Man. And he does almost anything. I think the original X-Men are pretty underpowered when you really think about it. If you keep Xavier out of it, We don't know what his powers were at that point, exactly what those powers were at that point.
Right. I'm going with first issue powers. In first issue
Well,
powers,
then first issue powers, I think the Doom Patrol more powerful.
yeah.
Definitely.
Cyclops
in the
wasn't the
DC
master
way,
strategist yet. He was still a student. The X-Men, I mean, the Doom Patrol were kind of like combative and rookies. But yeah, I think the first appearance powers, Xavier was just, like I said, not even ambulatory. He was just a radio transmitter, and so was Chief through Cliff. So I do think I think Cliff Steele Robot Man just wades into him. And
yeah, I think so too. The Beast is not as strong. The Beast being the strong man of the X-Men is not as strong as Robot Man, and probably not as strong as Rita if she's giant.
Well, the Chief loses to Professor X. Cyclops beats Negative Man. Do you think so? Do you think his concussive blast would get through his negative?
Wouldn't concussive fist go through Negative Man? It's negative corporeal at all?
Yes, negative. Larry Trainer was an Air Force test pilot, so he was military. Remember, Xavier could link them telepathically. He would know all the Doom Patrol secrets. Except for Cliff Steele. I mean, Cliff, he was shielded against Mento, but then again, maybe not in the first issue. But I do see Cliff Steele like wading into him. Negative Man plops down on the ground. And then Negative Man just like starts zooming through them. Like now the real challenge is, does Cyclops' eye blast do anything to Negative Man? Cyclops knocks down Robot Man. That blasts Negative Man, forcing him to defend his body. Okay, I'll buy that. So Cyclops, Robot Man goes running in, takes out the Beast. Boom. Beast, an Angel just get thrown. Elastigirl grows big, grabs Angel, throws him to the ground. Chief is already was a master strategist from the beginning, whereas Xavier, he's probably going, watch out, dude. This, but I could see going like so. So we got like Iceman and probably slips up and throws down a slick.
Iceman,
it's throws down a slick and takes. And
if they underestimate Iceman, his ice powers making everybody slip and slide all over the place. Nobody can grip. Like you could see, Robot Man running in, and then Iceman putting an ice, on the ground, and him just slipping right through. But Robot Man just gets up. There's nobody on the team that's going to destroy Robot Man. Depending if you feel like Cyclops, his powers say start blowing off Robot Man's arms,
right?
Which used to happen to him all the time.
Yeah,
but I don't know that.
Winning? That's you literally.
How indestructible is Robot Man?
Eric the Guapo says nope to what? Nope to what? Once Robot Man is off his feet, Beast can just juggle him with his feet and launch him at Rita. I'm loving this stuff. Robot takes out Beast, Professor X, and pre-gay Iceman.
Well, because post-gay Iceman is much more powerful.
Yeah, so I think just the way Cliff thinks, he's going to look at Hank. He's going to see a big football player guy. Robot Man leaps into him. Beast gets knocked back. Warren flies up in the air. Doesn't realize Rita gets big and slaps him out of the sky. Cyclops is like, turns on the eye blast, hits Cliff Steele, and then Iceman, I think, would throw like a slick or something like that.
Okay, I'm saying the chat has a point. So see Phantom Outsider and Eric the Guapo's points. They are thinking the X-Men is going to work much more as a team. And I feel like the chats feel like the Doom Patrol's fighting much more as individuals. Yes, right. If they do a lot of teamwork, yes, the X-Men could win with teamwork.
Well, if I was writing it, that's how I would start it. The X-Men, because let's face it, the X-Men in issue 1 were kids who view the world better. I think they would have been surprised.
I'm also
the Doom Patrol were bitter, almost villains.
And if Rita Farr is a hot actress and she grows to be giant, and she still has her skirt on. I feel like the underage X-Men might be just
everybody but Bobby.
and
Everybody
staring
but
at her
Bobby.
and just get taken out. I mean, they're the power, the sex appeal power.
Right, but I think like because if you read that Doom Patrol, they were borderline villains at first. I think that they would come out swinging, whereas the X-Men would be like, "Can't we all get?" But I think Xavier would link them all up and help them all out. Right, Beast was.
I think we're also finding out that it's hard to think back to when all the characters were their original powers because we're so used to them being powered up. I mean, they were even more powered in the Byrne years and the Cockrum years. They had more powers, and the powers were more developed. Maybe they didn't have more and
right.
more
They were more
versatile.
trained in their subtlety.
Back then is very difficult for everybody.
Can Cyclops take off his eyewear, make a giant opt? Yes, but he won't. Like, remember, he's like terrified of doing that stuff, and but I think he would do it to like a Sentinel or something like that. But he's just like, there's a brain in that robot body, and I don't want to. You know what I mean? Kill him. I think the X-Men are better people at this point. Even the Chief was kind of a borderline sinister. X-Men in #1 were already team that seemed to fight, even though they were
They take
after the initial, the Doom Patrol comes in. They got the name Doom Patrol. They act, they're kind of sinister. I still say Cyclops comes, throws Beast to the ground. Rita takes out the Angel, and then all of a sudden they realize this is serious. This is serious. They kind of regroup. Cyclops hits Robot Man. Maybe he's not. Robot Man still advancing. Iceman does the old whammy. They trip and fall, and then I think like Rita would really stall. Which is happening behind him. I mean, stuff like that. But you're right, Xavier would. Okay, guys, these are we can't act as warriors. We need to act as soldiers. Yeah, Beast was more of a thinker back then. Was agility and strength was secondary? Absolutely. The X-Men were teenagers at this point. Yeah, Jean Grey was established when she was 16, and Bobby was established at 14, 13, and the rest of them were around 16 at the time. Whereas the Doom Patrol were full-on adults at this point. Adult, bitter, and angry with the world. All that team.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. Each one of them were angry. They lost their livelihood.
Right. They were not a team. They did not work as teamwork. That's why I say Cliff Steele would wade into them. Right.
Like Cliff was uniquely bitter.
Oh, my internet is spazzing out? Yeah, we're having a really bad storm right here.
Yes, I know you are. We had it yesterday.
X-Men for teamwork wins, but if the X-Men does not use the teamwork, their history. The Doom Patrol, I think, outclasses them as far as power. But I'm loving how lively this chat is. I disagree. The X-Men fight as a team and wouldn't be caught off guard. They were teens, but they were soldiers. That's kind of sad that they were teen soldiers. That's another icky thing that we don't want to think about today. Yeah, the Doom Patrol kills the original X-Men. Cyclops uses I-beams, make a hole in Rita's steps. Bobby fills it with ice. That would keep her busy for a bit. Yeah, but that's just it. I don't think Cyclops would. Cyclops is too much of a gentleman to use those power at full. That's like saying, like, who would win in a fight?
Didn't he blast a hole for the Blob in that issue?
Never. In issue 2, he blasted the Blob, and it pushed him forward. He took.
I'm trying to remember how they defeated the Blob. The Blob. They had a harder time with the Blob than they did with Magneto.
Yeah. Which makes
Fred
me
J.
think
Dukes, the greatest character ever. Yes, Fred J. Dukes. Greatest mutant ever, the Blob.
Your power is you're so fat that nothing hurts you. And I love the Mole Man. The Mole Man is my friend Bobby and I always used to talk about like casting the greatest Fantastic Four movie, like who would be. And he just said, like, he goes, can you imagine Marlon Brando like 6 months before he died, being offered the role of the Mole Man?
That would be good.
Okay, well, what is the mole man? What is the mole man? Well, he's so ugly that he has no choice but to live underground. And you want me to play him? What made you think of me then?
Yeah, right. Oh my goodness!
Because all you need is funky glasses. Get out of here! I need a new agent. Doom Patrol is far more powerful, but they okay. Yes. All right. This is a different comment. I thought this is the Doom Patrol is far more powerful than the original X-Men. I think we all agree on that. But they were soldiers who were trained day and night to fight as a team.
Well,
yes,
supposed to be
X-Men are a team. They are they're soldiers, whereas the Doom Patrol were warriors, as shown in their comics, because they would break up. They literally. Oh, as my voice just cracks. They didn't really use teamwork. Neither did the Justice League. That was just like teamwork was a Marvel thing. Training.
Oh no, yeah, teamwork was a Marvel thing.
Yep. But training beats raw power. The vast majority. I got no argument with that.
I always go back. When you talk about powers, Marvel and DC, I always go back to that Kurt Busiek, George Perez, one of the few comics I have left, and the DC on their Earth were way more powerful than the Marvel heroes.
Right.
And when the Marvel heroes went to the DC Earth, they kind of got powered up a little bit. It's just the way it is. Marvel heroes generally are not as powerful as DC heroes,
which is why I think we like him. But I like this comment. That's why he made a hole. He steps so he doesn't have to zap her. Scott has a thing for redheads. Yes. So Scott sees a giant redhead. And he's just like, oh, what are you doing after the battle? Yeah. Also, Rita has a thing for rich guys. So Warren shows her wallet. He gets the redhead. At the end.
Yeah, right. Could you imagine?
There you go.
A giant redhead. Sorry, X-Men. I'll be in my
looking up that skirt. What do you do? Oh, it's a natural redhead. What are you doing?
I'll be in my
the guy who looked like the Invisible Man would be more than enough to take out the original X-Men.
Yeah.
Negative Man is really very powerful. Don't write Larry out. The guy wrapped in bed. Yeah, Negative Man. He he was radiation, so he could become solid. He could be ghost-like. And of course they were innocent back then, so they didn't play with
or maybe the Negative Man zaps the Beast and he becomes a super strong blue furry guy and he goes crazy and beats up everybody.
That's how What If would work.
They could yeah, right. The Negative Man makes it mutate further.
Rita, what? You don't consider me a freak, Warren? Look, I got these freaking wings. In what way are you a freak? Except freaking beautiful. There you go. Phantom Outside has already got this script written. There you go.
Listen, he held his own.
Rita changes sides just like that. Early Rita, that would work on Rita in issue number 1. If somebody had told her she was beautiful and not a freak.
And Hulk Annual 7, the X-Man, the Iceman, and the Angel fought the Hulk and a bunch of Sentinels in one of the great John Byrne comics of all time, inked by Bob Layton. So they could do some things with those wimpy powers.
Yep.
That's a great comic, too, if you don't like What If 3, Hulk Annual 7.
X-Factor is the most powerful. Yes, Xavier is the most powerful psychic on Earth, but that's what we're talking about. Like in issue number 1, he really wasn't more than just a human radio service. I mean, I know they retconned it so that he did all these things.
A lot of the Marvel heroes at that point, including the Fantastic Four, were only a step up from the Marvel monsters.
Right. Remember, all you need to do is keep away with Larry's. Yeah, Iceman grabs the body and slides away. Yeah, but the negative being works like speed. Even Bobby couldn't get farther enough away to stop the Negative Man being. And even if he encased it in ice, it's like a spirit. It could go through the ice. Negative Man zaps Jean Grey and wakes up the Phoenix Force, who is lying dormant inside her psychic, and then fights everyone. And then Wolverine stabs her in the stomach. Where'd Wolverine come from? He just popped out.
Well, it's the multiverse on the Deadpool, so he just dropped in.
Well, in the X-Men 2, he made the Vanisher forget he could vanish. Good point.
Well, that's true.
Good point, Phantom Outsider. Good point. So, I just like the idea of the Doom Patrol having the upper hand at first. It creates good drama. It shocks everybody because of But I do think that once that initial onslaught hits, Xavier, calm down, guys. Think as a team. Look at their weak and they're like, they're so powerful. What are we gonna do? What are we? And Xavier's like, be a team, teamwork. Look, they're acting like soldiers. I mean, they're acting like warriors. They're attacking individually. They're not trained like us. Use your training. And I do think that, like you said, I think we all agree at this point they weren't as raw powerful as the Doom Patrol, but like I think it was logic finally says training trumps power. I mean,
okay, I will accept that the Doom Patrol doesn't completely murder the X-Men at the first pass. The X-Men have a chance. The Doom Patrol might just kill them.
I will say I hate the concept of the Phoenix Force. The Phoenix Force just robbed Jean Grey of this great agency. Like, her name was Phoenix. She was going to come back from the dead. I don't like when superheroes come back from the dead, but if your name is Resurrection Man and your name is Phoenix, that's your shtick. You know, when you're Spider-Man, you stick to walls. When you're the Human Torch, you burst into fire. When your name is the Phoenix, you come back from your ashes. That's part of the name. So she had the ability to come back from the dead. They didn't need the Phoenix Force. All that did was dilute what made Jean Grey special. Just how cool would that have been? That she's dead, they bury her, and then later on they just find this like 16-year-old girl wandering around. Like
that was Kurt Busiek's idea too to bring out. That was almost all his idea. Enough that Bird didn't want to draw.
You know, they go to Greenwich Village and there's a waitress. She looks like Jean Grey. You know what?
Her name's Madeline Pryor.
You know what I mean? And then they find out that she's Jean Grey, and then they do a telepathy, and then all of a sudden that unlocks her telepathy, and then the meter starts. And it's only a matter of time, just like a phoenix. It you know what I mean? Now she's this immortal pulsating tragedy. She's this tragic time bomb that pulsates through all eternity. You know what I mean? I think that would be such a great source of storytelling and drama.
Everybody loves Jean Grey and the Phoenix, but bringing the way they brought her back, it was Kurt Busiek's idea, was really such a bad idea that it ruined not only Jean Grey and the Phoenix, it ruined Cyclops, because Cyclops had to be with Jean Grey, so therefore he leaves Madeline Pryor, who he had a child with, which this all wasn't the plan. They just did this all out of.
I really think they were big Cyclops out the pasture.
He wouldn't even redraw the pages. They had Jackson Geist redraw those pages in the John Byrne style in the FF. That's how bad an idea it was. X Factor wasn't a bad comic book, but it was a bad idea for a comic.
To the point, I think they made, like, Madeline Pryor was supposed to be just a regular girl. Scott Summers was supposed to be, and I think they were going to go off and retire together because they were
I think so.
But then they got the idea to make the original X-Men, and then once I think they saw the reaction to Scott's, they had to make it so that Madeline Pryor was the bad guy, and then they
made that baby Cable.
You know, I don't know.
They said that
why rip Johnny Storm? Did I say
Cable,
something?
right?
Did I miss something? I don't understand why. Rest in peace, Johnny Storm.
I think he's thinking Negative Man would kill Johnny Storm.
Oh, okay. Doom Patrol usually did not use lethal force. Yeah, because it was Silver Age. They didn't even throw punches. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that would be funny. So quick, the X-Men split up and find the bomb. You know, and then the X-Men are just like, oh, I thought this was a fight. Yeah. So right, yes, Phantom Outsider, you got me on a real technicality.
Eric Guapo has an interesting point.
Doom Patrol usually did not use lethal, and the X-Men don't use lethal force at the beginning when Wolverine got. Yeah. Yep. That's how I feel about the Angel. I never liked Archangel. I felt like a downgrade that robbed him of his. I was quiet. I didn't like Archangel.
Well,
it made him cooler, but I like.
Well, the X Factor was all powered up by the Simonsons. That's why it's so funny. They powered up the Beast, and he lost his intelligence. They powered up. They had the Casca Winters power up the Iceman, and they made Archangel, but they don't get any blame because they're the Simonsons and everybody loves them. But I like the original Angel. I think Eric.
I always like a good costume works wonders, and that red costume.
I love that costume.
Such a good costume.
I
always felt like Angel and
Cyclops
were half of one superhero that should have been combined. Oh wow! Can you imagine
That's kind of interesting. I like that idea.
An eye blasting angel. The whole Jean going and destroying her son was crazy as well. Jean,
Well,
right?
Jean did do that.
Well, now that's what I'm saying. They removed her agency.
But even if they had Jean, absolute power absolutely corrupts, so she would do it anyway.
Yeah, I just thought
that was the idea, that powerful force.
So I'm calling this that the X-Men win. Like because again, Silver Age Doom Patrol, they wouldn't come out with lethal force.
That's true.
But and let's face it, they wouldn't even fight either. They would split up and look for the bomb, and and the trick. But a little bit of beyonder nudging, they go to fight. I think the Doom Patrol it initially surprises them with their raw power, and then Xavier and Cyclops whip them into the team that they are, that the Doom Patrol is not. And like Logic Phoenix says, I think that the teamwork is the deciding factor in the lack of raw power, because how many times do we have lesser power superheroes defeat more powerful villains because of teamwork? And and had it in real world too, like smaller military forces use superior tactics. Like Alexander the Great, he defeated a 1,000,000-man army with superior tactics. He wasn't more powerful than Xerxes. The Red Angel costume, the one he stole from Red Raven, stealing the clothes off a sole survivor of a sky. That's right.
I remember that issue.
Yeah. He did do that, right?
But there was that one where it was black and red, and then they changed it to that one where the blue or the red, whichever they wanted, was on the sides, and he had that open.
Right, I love that.
I use that mask for my character, that type of mask. I love that. An open-headed mask. I don't know why anybody would have it, but have the helmet with open, like you see the hair of like Flash Gordon. I love those. I love that stuff.
It keeps his ears from getting cold when he's flying.
Yeah, that's right. I love that.
Cyclops was the second greatest leader in classic Marvel behind Captain America. Absolutely, I'm with you 100% on this. Again, I was a big fan of Cyclops, and it's amazing to me to think that Cyclops has been a deadbeat dad longer than he's been a cool, stoic leader. The movie versions, don't get me started. The movie versions were an abomination. Never felt like great leaders. One was a cuck, the other a whiner. Yep. And I got to say, the X-Men to me became the whiners. Somewhere
I see your point.
Around 210, they just whined so much. I quit reading the X-Men at 2000 at issue 204. I've since went back and bought, I think, up to 353.
Did you read any of them?
I'm up to 353, I think, as far as reading, but I own. I think
that's about when I stopped. I couldn't take it.
I haven't read Age of Apocalypse yet. I'm not up to it.
I liked Age of Apocalypse, by the way, and the spin-offs. It was kind of interesting, but you knew it was going to end.
The Justice League defeating Starro. Could you clarify this comment? Like you're talking about like a smaller team? Because any team with Superman has on it is not a smaller force.
Well, it's not the same. I always wondered. You're reading a lot of those Justice League stories now. You said, and how weak is Superman in the Justice League compared to he is in his own comic?
Right. Well, they
depowered him.
Right. That's the thing. You put Thor on the Avengers, and Thor's getting taken
up.
When
they had the Justice Society, they kept Batman and Superman out of the Justice Society because of that.
I always wonder what Captain America would say if there's ever a reunion of Invaders and Liberty Legion.
I don't know, but that sounds good to me.
That sounds good too. I love that they did like a 12-issue series of like around 2005 of the Invaders, and they had like Alex Ross covers. Those were excellent.
Oh yes, I got that. Yeah, I like that. It kind of petered out towards the end, but it was pretty strong at the beginning.
You know what? I just put in. I love the Agents of Atlas. I just put in the order for that 5-issue series where Greg Pak hands it off to Jeff Parker hands it off to Greg Pak, or the other way around.
There's like 3 series, right? I might look that up.
Smaller team defeating a larger threat. Oh, okay, that's right. Superman wasn't an original Justice League, right?
No, right.
Superman and Batman. That good call.
Yeah, they kept him out because it's hard to write anything with Superman.
Ironically, for me, Civil War is when I walked away from Marvel Comics. Extremis, Iron Man, and Civil War were the ends for me. Yeah, I that's when I was starting to
I read some of Civil War.
seeing the cracks, and I walked away from Marvel and DC in 2015. So what year was Civil War? I think
It's like 2012.
12.
Before the movies.
Yeah, that's when I started going like, what's
Well,
going
that was
on?
really obviously Civil War. I took that trade paperbacks out of the library, and that was when like Quesada decided to do something obviously political, and the right was wrong.
What issue was that? I got to go look at that again. What issue was it when Angel stole the Red Raven's
I don't
costume?
know, I'll see if I can look it up. I might have it here.
It was Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Martian, and the Flash. Yeah.
Well, Martian
Manhunter
was there instead of Superman.
All right, so I'm calling it 2 hours in, 10:01. Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol comes in like a tidal wave, knocks everybody down. The X-Men regroup and defeat them. But to me, that's the way I would write the comic book if I was writing it, because if Xavier just comes in and does a mind whammy, it's not a fun comic. I love Starro. As you can see, I have a Starro behind my Thor hammer. Where is it? Yeah, there's Starro right over here.
X-Men 44.
There we go. That's Starro right there. I love Starro because it's wonderfully like Lovecraftian without being like Lovecraft, like this non-human alien that sops your will. And then I love the concept of those face huggers with the eye. Oh my God. I love that so much. It's so good, especially that Brian Bolland cover. Wow. Yeah, Starro is a fun villain.
X-Men 44 is the Red Raven issue.
I gotta that's Roy Thomas. Because he was obsessed with those heroes.
It was Roy Thomas plotted it, yeah.
So anybody else have anything to comment about the Doom Patrol versus the X-Men? And does anybody have a suggestion for the next It's Clobbering Time? I like it when there's like an obvious similarity, when there's an obvious, like a Superman versus Fantastic Four, that's actually not bad now that I think about it. I like the concept of Starro as a hive mind that can control anyone. I really didn't like, I think it was in the Justice League Extreme, where Starro was like a warrior with like a starfish on his shoulder. I like Starro as this starfish alien. I didn't like.
I kind of like Amazo. Remember Amazo used to get all the powers and beat them all up?
Yeah. How could Amazo be defeated? Amazo has like the powers.
He couldn't. That's why they were good characters.
And didn't they defeat them by disbanding the Justice League?
They did that one. Yeah. Well, some of the ideas are pretty lame.
So, everybody, what do you think?
I think I agree with you. I think that if the Doom Patrol is not fiercely fighting, the teamwork of the X-Men beat them.
Right.
If the Doom Patrol comes out and they really like 1990s or something type of character.
If we're talking about other,
yeah,
modern X-Men beats the clock, I think, with any.
Well, there's like a million X-Men anyway, so it's yeah, I think so too.
But here's the thing. Even when I think back of it, because the Doom Patrol was more bickery. Like the chief would tell them to do stuff, and they would argue with the chief. So I could see like the chief is like, "Okay, guys, we got to fight as a team," and they're like, "Shut up, chief!"
Like the closest
or Xavier, if he said we got to fight as a team, they're going to listen to him.
I'm trying to think
with
of
both Doom Patrol. They start the story to get ready for the fight. They're both done. There you go. The story starts continued next issue, but both comics were canceled, and we never know.
We could do Green Lantern and Iron Man.
That's a funny comment. That's a Doctor Strange versus Dr. Fate. Oh wow, I really like that. A villain battle, a DC villain versus a Marvel villain. So, like who?
Darkseid Thanos is too obvious, and there's already been a comic with that. So
I do like that though. Darkseid versus Thanos. Yeah.
I was thinking maybe Green Lantern and Iron Man.
Green Lantern versus Iron Man.
There's no analogy to could Tony Stark figure out how to beat an unbeatable green power?
I'm trying to think. Who does DC have that's comparable to Galactus?
Mordred? No.
No. DC doesn't have a Galactus
Dark
ally.
side. Dark side versus dark side. It's all dark side of DC.
Yeah.
There's no really giant. I can't remember any. Brainiac. No, not like Galactus though. Galactus is like God.
Spectre versus Galactus.
The Spectre, yeah.
Necron.
The Golden Age Spectre.
How about Trigon versus Mephisto?
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, they did a Galactus versus Darkseid. The Anti-Monitor versus Galactus. Because the Monitor wouldn't. Well, maybe the Monitor would fight Galactus to save. Yeah, DC, the cosmic beings in DC are very different than the cosmic beings in Marvel.
Oh yeah, that's. For sure.
Oscar has good suggestions. I'm kind of. How do you guys feel about Doctor Strange versus Doctor Fate?
I read a lot of Doctor Fate comics, but I have to see what he can do as opposed to Doctor Strange. Strange, I have an idea. Well, we have to put a cap on it. Modern Strange, I have no idea what they do with in the last 10 years. You know?
Keep in mind, I stopped Marvel and DC 2000.
So I remember like
I'm talking classical. Yeah. So guys, how about we call it Doctor Strange versus Doctor Fate for next Friday night?
Sounds good.
All right, and we'll cap it here. This is 2 hours, 2 hours and 6 minutes.
We could do Doctor Strange Fate.
Doctor Strange Fate. Well, they becomes one being. Fate with the full helmet already. Well,
I think it would have
Doctor Strange with the black mask when he became ruthless, or Doctor Strange without the black. These are all great variables that we could throw in.
Well,
there.
the half helmet. Well, it's going to come into, sometimes Doctor Strange's the master of mystic arts, and sometimes he's not. Right. Sometimes his girlfriend's the master of mystic arts.
Doctor Strange without the when he had the amulet of Agamotto versus the eye of Agamotto, different.
Or is Doctor Fate's girlfriend hotter than Clea? I mean, I think not. But
India is hot.
Clea is hot. Ben Franklin banged Clea.
When he went into the tower and she had the braids and she's luxuriating on the bed. Oh. That was
or Doctor Strange 14 when they went back in time and Ben Franklin had sex with Clea, Doctor Strange's girlfriend.
Doctor Strange got cooked by Ben Franklin.
Yeah, thanks, Steve Englehart.
Fate with the full amount to Doctor Strange half helmet.
Well, at least it was Ben Franklin, the father's of the
order Mesticus. Doctor Fate. Dr. Fate whoops. Well, we got to save the speculating.
It all goes back DC versus Marvel. The DC character generally originally more powerful than Marvel characters. It's just the way it is. So we have to see what the equalization is at some point. Doctor Strange. I mean, it's magic. Magic does anything. It's the ultimate Deus Ex Machina is magic.
Okay. All right. How about I Superman versus Silver Surfer?
Well, I don't mind Doctor Strange and Doctor Fate. I'm just saying,
All right, sure. Let's vote. We got in the next 30 seconds. We got either Doctor Strange, the Battle of the Doctors, or Superman versus Silver Surfer.
What do you guys say in the chat?
Superman or Silver Surfer or Doctor Strange, Doctor Fate.
Superman versus Galactus.
Not who wins. Who wins? Which one should we
want to talk about?
Yeah, which is the next? It's clobbering time.
I think Strange and Fate, Superman and Silver Surfer. I think Superman versus Galactus might be a better fight.
Everybody's already answered the questions. We're not doing the battle now. What should be the topic for the next Friday? Either is a good. Well, I'm gonna stay with the. Next week we'll do Dr. Fate versus Doctor Strange, just because there's a lot of good stories, a lot of good highs and lows and character stories that we could talk about.
That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So that's that. So guys, I'm going to call it quits now, and thanks a lot, everybody. This is a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
I'm going to be on somebody's channel. I forget who. I forget whose channel I'm going to be on, and then Sunday I'm going to do. I got to read this now.
If you don't like it, don't think of something else. But
I'm going to do a what if, and then I think I already know what I'm going to do for next. So that'll be Sunday Comics.
I got that autograph by Jim Shooter and Gil Kane too.
I'm going to look at my stream because Monday at 2:00. I have Adam Reeves. Adam Reeves did a comic called Trombone Man.
I saw that. Yeah.
It's a real life story of a Jamaican ska from the 60s. I love Jamaican ska. When I saw this comic, I just saw Trombone Man drop it, and I backed it. I forget why I was on Kickstarter looking at something else. It's one of the few times that I went to Kickstarter to back a comic, saw something else, and backed it. Sight on, and I'm so happy that I got it. I did a video on it, a showcase on it, and he reached out to me and said, "Oh wow, and we've been back and forth, trying to set up a time because he lives in the UK, and I'm not working right now. It's happening to work out. So one good thing about this thing is so that's something I'm excited to do because
I can't guarantee I'll be there at 2.
He's a small creator. I would like to give him a chance to spotlight. It was a wonderful comic, and I think issue number 2 is going to be crowdfunded pretty soon. All right, so and I want to. Why can't I?
I'll try to arrange if I can get lunch around 2. I'll try my best, but I can't guarantee it.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to.
Just so you know, I know you know, but I just want to let you know.
Oh, I wanted to talk about something else. Okay, yeah. So Monday is Adam Reeves. Tuesday is Godfo. Wednesday is Paul Rivosh. How do you say his name?
Rivosh.
Then my neurosurgeon appointment to see if I need a barbecue at my brother's house. There's one I really wanted to shout out now. Where is it?
Rivosh. Oh boy.
Oh, don't tell me I forgot to put it in my calendar. But Tom DeFalco's coming on pretty soon.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I forgot to put it in my calendar, so I got to go look through the emails. So I booked
Tom DeFalco will be fun.
So that'll be a lot of fun. That's what I wanted to reveal. So thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you Sunday at Sunday Comics. That's What If the Avengers Had Never Been. There you go. Thanks a lot, and this is a lot of fun. All right. Oscar.
Good night.
Oscar says, I'll message you, and one of these days when you got some. I know you're a night bird. I'm a night bird now. We'll figure it out. Just us. All right. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.